What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is CJ, the Cheese DJ here, and we're back. And today we're just going to be discussing our hammer set that we are currently using on Monster Hunter World. And I honestly find that it is one of the best sets that I've been able to come up with, honestly. I've taken a look at various armor pieces and their skills, and I think this is probably one of the better sets of armor. However, take in mind that I have not unlocked all the decorations yet, as well as the charms. So the charms and decorations are a little bit limited, but this is a set you want to go for when you transition from low rank to high rank, I find. Now, I've used this set to complete the game, killing the final boss. Not going to give away any spoilers here, and I definitely recommend it to anyone who's looking to get into hammers. Alright, so without further ado, let's get into our equipment. Alright, so we're just going to take a quick look here at the skills. Now, straight off, you can see that due to having a set of 4 Diablos armor, we've got the Bludgeoneer and Diablos Mastery. Now, essentially, these are core skills that you need, or going to want with the hammer. Bludgeoneer, not so much, but the Diablos Mastery is a very good boost that you can use. So, essentially, the Bludgeoneer increases the attack your weapon does as you lose sharpness. Now, green is the ultimate sharpness for this skill. You want to stick at green for as long as possible with this skill. Anything above green doesn't deal the bonus damage, whereas green deals the bonus damage. We'll get into that later on. Next up is the 4-piece Diablos Mastery. This is pivotal. So this powers up non-elemental weapons you have equipped. So any weapons that don't have an element on them get powered up immensely, which is really useful skill to have. Alright, we're just going to come into the smithy here. And we're going to talk to this guy here. Now, if we go change equipment, for example, you can see at the moment we currently deal, 1,206 damage. If we were to unequip some of this armor, you'll see that number drop. You can see there we're only dealing 1,128. Actually, that's incorrect because we still have attack bonus. There we go. 1,097 is the amount of damage we would do without the extra Diablos set. So we get roughly about 200 extra attack on that, which is pretty good in my opinion, I would say. Now you can see here we've got the Dragon King eye patch as well as the rest of the Diablos Greaves. Now our Diablos Sledge as well is not fully upgraded, so take that in mind. Now its base stats is 988, so already we're about 250, 270 extra attack bonus just from our armor. Now if we come into our skills here for a sec, you'll see that we have other skills along with it. Now Heroics is a skill that honestly is not needed, however it came along with the Diablos armor, so I obviously stick with it. Now it is the skill that you would rather use a lot of the time, because essentially when you drop below 35% health, you gain an increase to attack by 15% and an extra 25 points in defense. Now that's really good for when you're taking on lower rank stuff. So obviously you're still going to be in the high rank, but like lower tiered monsters that don't deal as much damage. This will allow you to stick at 35% health and deal a whopping huge amount of damage to those monsters still. Once again, tremor resistance as well comes along with the armor. Not very necessary. You'll see that we opted out for the beta of the leggings, which is actually what gave us the tremor resistance. Now, attack boost is gained from our weapon and our amulet. Obviously, if you have a attack amulet, you can actually increase the attack amulet and upgrade it so that it deals more attack bonus to your armor and weapons. However, due to us having the Fairwind Charm, I think it is, so we get the attack boost +1 and the Divine Blessing. Now, Weakness Exploit is a skill that you definitely need for hammers. Because essentially with a hammer, you're going to be attacking the head of the monster the most, and that is the monster's weak spot with the hammer. So that allows you to stun and deal extra affinity to the monster's head. Well, any parts that's weak to them. Slugger is another necessary skill for hammer users because it increases the stun power. So if you do enough damage to the monster's head, you'll eventually knock them out or stun them. This ups the amount of damage you do in stun terms, so you are able to knock them out and stun them quicker. Now, Marathon Runner is another skill that is pretty useful for hammer users. So essentially what Marathon Runner does is when you are charging up your hammer to do one of the spinny attacks or the big charged attacks, this reduces the amount of stamina that you are consuming by 30% respectively, or if you've got it level 3, 50%. So this is rather good for those long fights where the monster's up in the air and you're just trying to charge your weapon up waiting for it to come down. You don't have to worry about your stamina depleting at a crazy fast rate. So once again, not 100% necessary, but I do like having it on this set. Now, Critical Draw is another very interesting skill to have with hammer users. I'm still not 100% sure on how I feel about this skill. Sometimes I find it useful, sometimes I'm a bit hesitant to call it useful. So essentially what the draw attack affinity is when you unsheath your weapon into an attack, the first attack that it does gets an extra 30% affinity. So for example, when you power charge your hammer straight off your back, which you are able to do by pressing R2 and circle, you can actually charge that into a powered charge and you'll actually get an extra 30% affinity on that attack. Now if you pair that up with the weakness exploit where you attack the head, that's an extra 60% affinity just from that, which is rather useful. Now, as well as that, the critical draw has to be sheathed and unsheathed for it to be able to work. So you've got to take that into consideration as well when using this set. Now with the Divine Blessing, like I said, it's just due to the charm. However, I do like having it on this set because it does reduce damage, and this has actually saved my life more times than I can count, to be honest. Now, some personal upgrades that I plan on implementing on this armor at the moment is you can currently see that we don't have these certain sets in-slotted with jewels. You can see the Dragon King eye patch is missing a jewel, as well as our Van Braces and our Greaves, as they are the beta. Now, we plan on slotting these once we get the necessary gems, and into those we want to put Slugger, Weakness Exploit, and we're thinking about putting Critical Draw. Still not 100% sure sold on Critical Draw. It's between Critical Draw and Attack Up. You can see there we'll get extra affinity. Now, in terms of weapon use, if you want pure raw damage, the Diablos Sledge is the weapon to go with. Now, we don't have it fully upgraded just yet because farming Diaboloses for their horns is a huge pain in the bottom. But if you come in here and you actually upgrade this weapon to the max, you can see its raw damage at the moment is 988. If we were to take it up to max, that's an extra 300 attack damage on top of what we already have, which is nuts. That'll essentially put us at about 1500 attack, which is incredible. Now, as well as that, if we slot in attack jewels and swap out our actual charm to make an attack charm and boost that up to level 3, we're looking at easily 1700 attack with the hammers, which is ridiculously powerful. And I would definitely recommend this set to people. Now, if you're looking for other weapons that you use that are raw elemental, you've got the Barroth one as well, but I would honestly say that the Diablos one is the best because of the affinity bonuses that you get with the armor set. You don't have to worry too much about the affinity of your hammer. As long as you're hitting them in the head or their weak parts, you don't really need to worry about the negative 25 affinity that the weapon has. You see there's affinity is minus 25. And especially with all that raw damage that you're doing, you definitely do not need to worry about that affinity. Now, some actual other armor pieces that you can swap out if you're not happy with the Diablos is actually the Black Diablos. I was a little bit torn between this because both have very good sets. Now, as well as that, the Nergigante can easily swap in for the Diablos, but you do lose that armor set bonus, which is the reason why I haven't actually swapped it out. But you can easily swap out the skirt tassel thing, I think they're called, for the Nergigantes, where you get the attack boost and the stamina surge. That, in turn, pretty much does the same effect as the coils do for the Diablos. You get an attack boost and a stamina surge, which is pretty much the same thing as what goes on with the Diablos. Now, like I said, if you're not happy with the Diablos, you can swap it out for the Black Diablos. Resentment is a very decent skill to have. So essentially, while you've taken damage and your health is restoring, that little red bar grants you extra attack with this Resentment set. Now, it's something to definitely think about whether you want to go for that set or not. Heroic is pretty much the same thing, except you're playing on the more risky side of things with Heroics. However, the rewards are greater if you choose to use the Heroics. Now, another set that you could swap out for is the Urigan's Partbreaker skill. This skill, I find, is not vital to hammer users, but it is optional. It does provide extra means of breaking parts and makes it a lot easier for you. You can swap that out for the torso, however, I personally would not recommend it. So we're still working on this build. We're pretty happy with where it's at now because we're getting all the parts for it, and we're happy with the skills that it gives us. But at the moment, the only thing I could really recommend doing if you're not happy with this set is swapping out particular sets for extra attack boost or critical eyes. That is probably the main bits and skills that you want to swap out for. Critical eye because it gives you extra affinity. But you've got to think that your weapon already has minus 25 affinity. So all this critical eye will be doing to that set is making it 0 if you manage to get up to level 6. However, if you're attacking their head, well, then you get extra affinity based on that previous skills that you have equipped from the armor. So critical eye is not that big of a skill in my eyes with the Diabolos hammer because of the minus 25 affinity, but the skills that I've mentioned, such as critical draw and weakness exploit, are very useful for this particular build. Now, another very unique piece of armor that you can swap out for is the Valhazak braces, or any Valhazak armor that gives you peak performance. Now, this essentially allows you to deal extra damage based on how much health you have. If you're at full health, you will deal the extra +5 attack, level 2 obviously 10, level 3 +20. So it all comes down to what your personal preference is in terms of how offensive you want to be with your hammer. You've got to think that hammers are not the greatest weapons when it comes to dodging and everything like that, so you have to be very careful when it comes to picking certain armor sets. But in terms of raw power, raw skills, like I mentioned, you can swap jewels in that increase your slugger, weakness exploit, and critical draw. I would honestly say that this Diabolos set that I have equipped with the weakness exploit eye patch is my hands down best set in Monster Hunter and my favorite set to use. I don't see myself swapping out parts of this set for anything, to be honest with you. I'm really happy with how it all looks and how it plays, and it's a really good set. I even use my longsword sometimes with it because, heck, it really comes in handy with the extra weakness exploit and whatnot. But that'll be it for me today, guys. Let me know what you think of this set down below. Let me know if it's something that you try out. I know it's very bland in terms of armor because you've only got the 4 pieces of Diabolos and a random headpiece, but I honestly think this set really works. So that's just my opinion, guys. Let me know down below what you think of it. And other than that, check out my other Monster Hunter World guide videos. But other than that, guys, thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.